Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend, I'm with eLearning Brothers. Today we are going to be talking about what the end of Flash means for your business. This session will be recorded and we will post a copy of it on our blog as well as on our YouTube page later in the week. If you have questions during the webinar, we'll be ready to answer your questions in that questions panel, so please do use that questions panel. We'll get to as many questions as we can. We'll try to answer all of them here, or if we have to, we'll answer some of them offline. All right, so to talk to us about the end of Flash, we have James Kingsley, Chief Learning Architect, and Rich Vass, Director of Custom Solutions with us today. Thanks for joining us, both of you. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, Rich, to tell us a little bit more about our topic today.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. And hello, everybody. This is Rich. Great to have James in studio today to kind of talk us through this very industry-changing event that's looming for next year. I had to update my bio recently because it used to say I'm a 20-year guy in the workplace learning and performance arena. Now I'm a 25-year guy. I'm just getting old. So I remember back in the day in the early 90s when everything was just Flash. I think we all do. And as organizations have grown up and added more and more learning to your LMS, and more and more authoring tools have come on the market, which have varying levels of Flash output. I think we all know, and there's a lot of people on this webinar today who I think are very interested in this topic, because certainly I think it's going to impact all of our business. When you want, we all probably all have nightmares where you're going to come in one day, or your learners are going to come in, and you're going to get your inbox is going to be blown up with this crash, this window's not working, there's nothing happening on this page, and using Google Chrome or IE or you name it. I mean, it's just. And James, I hope you'll get into a little bit of what are we already seeing. I know some browsers aren't even supporting Flash anymore, and but when that switch flips next year, want to hear all about kind of what we can expect. eLearning Brothers has just sort of entered the market with this Flash Finder tool, and James is the key architect behind it. So he's the perfect guy to be on the call today. I think you'll get to learn a little bit about what we've got right here on the table right now to help you with this transition. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. I'll kind of pipe in as we move along. James will be the main event. But James, I'll kick it over to you to get us going.
Thanks. Hello, all. As I said, I'm James Kingsley. I haven't been in the industry quite 25 years, but it's been a long time.
You're not as old as me? Wait, I thought we were the same age. Oh, you were doing other stuff.
Yeah, I was doing other stuff. Yeah. But to that effect, I have an email address that's this.oninnerframe. And so if there's any Flash developers out there, that's an old school line of Flash code there. And so I was so into Flash that I created an email address. That's my my Twitter handle, oninnerframe. So I am or was a lover of Flash. But times have changed. It's time to move on. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about why, let me jump slides here, why Flash is going to go away. There we go. Why Flash is going to go away. What does that mean for your courses? And how do you know which of your courses are going to be affected by this change? And what our Flash Finder is, which I call F3. And what can you do about your courses that are going to be affected by this? So let me jump in first, just a little more about me. It's all about me. So I am the founder of ReviewMyElearning.com, CoursePortfolios.com, which is about to roll out in beta. So hit the website and sign up for the beta list now. And GForce Learning.com, that's where we do our e-learning development there. And as you know, I am closely tied to eLearning Brothers because I love the work they're doing here. As a matter of fact, you can find more about me or my blog post or contact me through any of these URLs. So you hit the eLearning Brothers blog, you can hit my website, and hit me up on LinkedIn as well there. So let's jump in. Why is Flash ending? Sad days. So first off, it's good to know that nobody's targeting Flash specifically. A bunch of other plugins for browsers have gone away or are going away. Just nobody cared as much about these other ones. So if you recall Java applets or Silverlight or QuickTime, that's how we used to get video to work in a browser. All those things went away too. Basically anything that was an NP API or an ActiveX plugin to a browser is on the way out. And one of the primary reasons why is security. So the way these applications worked was it was basically its own application running inside the browser, and it had a lot of control over what it could do in the browser and what it could do on your system itself. And unfortunately, there wasn't really any control over who was developing these apps and how they were developing them. And so it made it very easy. If you have an app running in your browser and it has pretty much unfettered access to, let's say, your file system, then it made it very easy for a black hat to make a program that could access your files or trick you into doing something else. And so it just wasn't very secure because there wasn't much control over it. Another big issue with all these is the support issues. So you had to have a version of Flash for Chrome and Firefox and Internet Explorer, Linux, and all the other operating systems would all have their own version. And so it was very hard for people to install if they didn't have admin privileges. And so there was just a whole lot of support issues, people calling up the support desk saying, hey, I can't get this to work. If they found a security flaw, they would have to push out all those updates to all those different Flash versions, and it would just take a long time to percolate down the system and get to the end user's browser, particularly in large corporations where it sometimes is more important there. And then one of the final like death knells was mobile, because it was just really hard to get Flash to be optimized for mobile. It was a battery killer. And part of that, again, goes back to that limited control over the apps and the developers, because a developer that's new to Flash might create some sort of a loop that's running in Flash just to check and see if some variable has changed or something. But every one of those loops is eating up a processor cycle on your phone, and each processor cycle is eating up some battery. And so it was just, again, just killing the batteries on mobile. Then in 2007, Steve Jobs famously wrote a letter saying why he would never allow Flash to be on any Apple device, any mobile app device. And so that really began part of the downward spiral for Flash there. Then around that time, the open standards of HTML5 and CSS3 started to come into play. And as those standards have clicked into place over the years, more and more of the things that we used to have to rely on Flash to do, we can now just do right in the browser, straight in JavaScript and HTML5 and CSS3. And so it's really enabled us to move that from this very niche proprietary product to this very open standard atmosphere there. And so we don't really need it as much anymore as we used to. We're not quite there yet, I don't think, but close. So what does this mean for your courses? Well, you may have already seen some issues in your courses. And so I just wanted to pull up, this is a course that I built some time ago. Let's see if I can get it over here on this window. And doesn't this course just look amazing? You love it, right? And so the problem here is this is the latest version of Chrome, and Flash isn't even showing. There's not even something there that tells me there's Flash. If I move my mouse around in there, I can see a little pop-up that says Adobe Flash Player on there. But it's up to the learner to figure out, hey, there's something going on here, what's happening? Then they're going to click it. Then they get this little pop-up box. Let's hope that they read it and that they don't click block, because that's going to lead to a whole lot of other problems. And then if you do hit allow, then finally your course will load up and be in there. That was an old storyline file. No, actually that was a Tickler Presenter file. This is a Lectora file. One of the cool things about Lectora is for a long time, it's really just been HTML output. So you'd think you might not have to worry about that much, but a lot of times people would augment their lectora courses with Flash. And so here's just a little example I put together. Ah, darn it. I clicked the thing earlier to allow it. And so now I've ruined my whole surprise. Hold on. Let's try in another window. So this is what we get in incognito here. In some windows, it would be the exact same as that other one where there's actually nothing there. And so if you have text describing this animation or this interaction that's happening off to the side, people aren't going to see that it's over there. And then they're going to run into a problem. And again, heaven forbid they click block, because that's going to block everything from that whole domain there, or at least that subdomain. And then next time they're in your LMS and they try to watch another one, they're not even going to get this kind of information in there. So those are some problems that we've seen as of now. If you want to see some problems as they're coming out, Google Chrome, you can download what they call the Canary version. And so that's their future build of it. And so they release that, I think it's once every week. And so that's what Chrome is going to look like in the future. And you can download it now and play with it. So it's a fun way to see, well, what is my website, what is my course going to look like 6 months from now in the next version of Chrome. So that's Canary from Google Chrome. So all this leads to confused and frustrated learners. If they mistakenly block your LMS, then you're going to get even more support desk tickets. And when those support desk tickets are coming in, that's just eating up more time for your support staff as well. And in 2020, they're going to remove it altogether from Chrome and pretty much all the modern browsers. The next version of Internet Edge, or what do they call it? Microsoft Edge, which is Microsoft's web browser. The next version is actually built on top of Chrome, Chromium, which is the engine underneath Chrome. And so the next version of Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, is also built on Chrome. So when these changes start rolling out to Chromium, it's going to affect pretty much all the browsers out there.
James, I'm curious if I could jump in real quick. Sure. I know that, so we have multiple LMSs across the board. Matter of fact, I'd love to ask the group. We have lots of people on the line today, but if you wouldn't mind, what LMSs are you using? You know, there's some of the bigger names out there. If you could type in the chat panel, Andrew Townsend can probably, Andrew, just give us maybe a little rundown, or I don't know if you can see the chat panel there in the studio, James, but we can get a little rundown of what LMSs are you using in your organization. And then while folks are typing that in, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us just kind of a high level, just the name of your LMS.
Sure, there's quite a few coming in. We've got Saba, Absorb, ADP LMS, SuccessFactors, Storylines, SumTotal, Oracle, Taleo, BVS.
Okay, great.
Canvas, LearnUpon, Litmos, Moodle,
Awesome.
DTL. There's a lot. Cornerstone.
So many learning management systems out there, and those are all names we've heard. And James, I know you've been the wizard in many of those LMSs, fixing this issue or that issue or whatnot. Would you comment on this issue? It's really a browser issue, right? And every LMS is really accessed through a browser. So I don't know if LMSs, are you aware of LMS companies trying to address this issue? Or we're not aware that they are, but I just wonder if you could speak to it a little bit.
Yeah, you are correct. It's a browser issue. It's not an LMS issue. We have been working with some LMSs now to incorporate our Flash Finder tool into their LMS to help their customers be able to find their courses that are going to be affected by this. I don't know if we have a list yet of the ones that we are partnering with, and that's to integrate with. In a moment when I get to how our tool works, we'll see that it works with most LMSs.
There's a question coming up. So you've mentioned Microsoft Edge and Chrome, but there's a lot of other browsers that people may be using. If I'm using a different browser, am I safe?
No. If you're using a browser from 2005, you are, yeah. But if you're using pretty much anything, so Firefox, Safari, Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Opera, they're all going to stop support in the very near future for Flash, if they haven't already. There are some folks that are still using IE11 for corporate use, and so they might be okay for a while, but IE11 is going to lose support very soon, and so they're going to need to get off that browser as well. The browser cycles have changed a lot too. I don't know if you remember back in the day, we'd all be excited because, you know, Netscape version 5 just came out, but now you don't even notice when a new version of browser comes out because it's just silently updating in the background all the time in there. I wanted to circle back around. Part of the reason why I was wondering about LMSs too is because there's so many out there. So then if you want, and we don't have to read the responses of this, I'm just curious if anybody's happy with their LMS. So if you're happy, say yes. If you're, or we'll do smiley faces and sad faces. You can just throw those into the chat room there. I'm just curious. All right. So how are you going to figure out which of your courses are affected by this Flash issue? So first off, you could just take a guess. When you make an educated guess, you could think back through your head, you know, what's the oldest course I made? What's the oldest course we bought and put in our LMS? And you can start working on it that way. You can rely on your developer's memory, or maybe that's, hey, look how I spelled developers. You could rely on developers' memory. And just think back, particularly like if you have those, maybe it's an HTML5 course, but you stuck one little Flash thing in there. And so you're going to have to try to think back, what was that course? Well, we made that really cool interaction with the thing there. And so those are some ways that you could just start guessing about it. You could just wait until learners complain. Eventually, you know, somebody's going to launch a course. They're going to call the help desk and say, hey, what's going on with this course? And so then you'll know, hey, there's one that we need to work on. You could test them all. You could just log into your learning management system and just start going through all the courses, see how they work. I'd recommend using the Canary for that. And then you could also use the eLearning Brothers Flash File Finder, and we'll talk about how that works. So first, our solution is automated. So it's running on a web server on Amazon Web Services. And so it's connecting from server to server, and it's all completely automated. So there's no manual having to go in and hand test stuff there. For most LMSs, it's going to connect via your LMS's API. So if you're not familiar with an API, it's just like a common standard language that allows two servers to communicate with one another. And in a way, probably all of you have used an API because SCORM and XAPI are both examples of a limited sort of definition of an API. And so we get your API credentials and we can connect to your learning management system from server to server. Then we start searching through all of your courses in your LMS, and we start identifying anything that is a Flash or a Flash video inside that course structure. Once we have that, we can get more information from the LMS, sometimes from the course itself, depending on what tool it was developed in, and other times from the LMS. We can get the course title, how many Flash files there were, if there's an HTML5 option present in the course, because as you know, a lot of the tools now, you have a choice, you know, publish to Flash and HTML5, and so maybe it's not that big of a deal that you have some Flash files in there, because there's that HTML5 option that's there as well. We can grab the number of registered learners, so how many people are currently enrolled in that course. We can tell you if it was a SCORM course or XAPI course. In most cases, we can tell you what tool it was developed in. Was this a Captivate course? Was it a Lectora course? Was it Storyline? And we can tell sometimes who developed that course, when it was uploaded, how long the course is, 27 minutes long, the number of slides in the course, and also grab the course ID from the LMS as well. That's going to give you a lot of information to help you make the decisions going down the line. So now, what can you do with courses that have Flash on them? For starters, I'm going to say, and I I know people have a lot of high hopes, but there is no magic conversion tool out there. I have been approached in the last year by several companies that say, hey, we've got this great tool. You just send us your course and we'll magically convert it and send it back. Their great tool is a lot of developers working really hard to hand develop that into something else. There was for a time some tools that could convert a simple Flash animation into an HTML5 animation. But when you start adding logic in there, such as, our courses now are very complex. Kudos to, all the leaders in the course tool business, because the output of those courses is really quite complex. If you think about the logic behind locking the next button until a learner's done all this stuff, that's a lot of logic that goes into that, and there's just no tool out there where they can just magically click a button and boom, your Flash files are converted to HTML5. Sorry. If you have the source files for your course, so let's say you identify a course and it's a Captivate course, and you look through your enterprise directory and you find that .cpta or what was captx file. So you find that, then actually you're in luck, because you could take that, open it up in the newest version of Captivate or Storyline, whatever tool it was in, and republish that to HTML5. Now, there's going to be some caveats there, because some things there weren't supported, back then or supported now, and vice versa. Sometimes things are treated a little bit differently from one version to the other. So you're definitely going to want to QA that content and that publish. And it might be a good time to update that thing too, because if you have a course that's like 5 years old and it's been out there in your LMS, maybe it's a great time to freshen up the graphics, change the logo, whatever changes have happened over that 5 years. It might be a great time to go ahead and update that course while you have it open. If the source files are FLAs, in other words, if it's an actual Flash file, so it's not a Flash file that was produced by one of our off-the-shelf tools we're most familiar with, but it's an actual Flash file that was made by a Flash ActionScript developer, and you happen to have the source FLA files, then you may be able to convert those using Adobe's Animate tool. They really haven't been advertising too much, but they basically turned their Flash development tool into this Adobe Animate tool, and you can open those FLAs up and publish them out as HTML5. For fun, I took a couple of my old ones and I tried them. First problem I ran into is they had AS2 script in them, which was the really old version of ActionScript that was inside there. And so it told me I needed to upgrade that to AS3, which was the newer version of ActionScript, and then it would try to convert that to JavaScript for me. What it did, in fact, was it just commented out a lot of the code that I had inside the course. And so you would just need to go back and rewrite that code into the Adobe Animate JavaScript in there. But at that point, it might be best just to move on and put them in a new tool, because working in Adobe Animate, again, it's a very proprietary tool and it takes a very specific kind of developer, but working in one of our off-the-shelf tools that we're more familiar with, it really gives you more flexibility. So if you have the source file in the FLAs, you can try to convert them, but better off probably moving it to something else. Oh yeah, and that's another one too. Almost all the old files I opened up, they were like, hey, you're missing this font, you're missing that font. So just a heads up, if you have some specific fonts that you were using back in the day, you might need to go find those fonts again, or choose a new font that's close to it. Now, if you do not have the source files, or you don't like your old tool, and you're going to move it into a new tool, then the process is basically you choose a new development tool, and luckily for you, you have pretty much the best storyboard in the world. You have the actual course there, and so you or your developers can watch the course and then recreate that in your chosen tool there. One problem you might run into is the images or the audio that was embedded in those, the text and stuff. And so we've used a few tools to extract those from Flash files. A lot of the older courses, would publish out a separate folder that had all the images and stuff, but you're going to have to go regather those things if you don't have the original source files. And we've had some good luck pulling it out of published Flash stuff in the past so that you can reuse it. Again, it's probably a good time to revisit the course and think about how you can update that course, make it fresher and newer as well.
Hey, James, as you're walking through that, the different,
Yes.
All the courses that are out there, it makes me think about, any given time, our custom team is running about 70 to 80 different projects with various, a couple dozen different clients to build custom courseware. A lot of the courses we're building are compliance-related courses. They're maybe sales training or some soft skills kind of training for leaders, or maybe a new process or management type training. A lot of it's product knowledge. I'm curious, to all the folks that are on the line today, what courses are you most worried about, I wonder, in your world that are most likely to become a bugaboo? I know many of our clients, and even in my old days as I managed learning teams for a major financial organization, keeping track of all of the compliance related stuff over many, many years. And as new hires come on board, right, there's a certain learning path they have to follow. They've got their own little personalized development plan. All that stuff certainly creates a lot of stuff to kind of keep track of and get your hands around. So if you want to type in the panel there, it'd be interesting to know, what are you most worried about in terms of your courses?
As these are coming in, there's product-based training courses, compliance courses that were made in older versions of authoring tools, sales and process training with interactions and rollovers, compliance software, business unit courses, and yeah, there's more of the same. A lot of compliance and software training. Oh, and games. That's true. Any games that you built in Flash will be in trouble here. Some onboarding as well.
Yeah, good point. That's a good point. Games are a big deal. We've seen some really cool Flash games over the years. I'm sure all of us have touched them and played them. That hurts for sure when your awesome Flash game everybody loves doesn't work anymore. So anyway, thanks for the responses, everybody.
That's a great question. Thanks. All right, so some considerations when converting your courses over. So one is, going back to what Rich was just saying there, how do you know which courses have the priority? How are you going to make that decision? Let's say you've discovered that out of your 500 courses that you have in your LMS, or maybe 10,000 courses in your LMS, 20% of them are gonna have to be upgraded or converted. So where are you going to begin with that? How are you going to make that decision there? And so some considerations in there are the usage. Is there anybody enrolled in that course right now? That doesn't necessarily mean it's not getting used at all, because like a code of conduct course that's a yearly required course, maybe nobody's enrolled in today, but if you know the name of that course and the ID of the course, and what department it was developed for and everything, then you know that, oh, well, if that's a code of conduct course, we're going to have to get that done by January. So usage, the age of the course, if it's a really old course, you might want to make that a priority because you want to update that anyways. Number of Flash files in the course. If you know that it's a course that's primarily all HTML5 and it's going to work great, but you have this one little Flash animation in there, and you might make that a lower priority because you can always circle back around and get that one later. And then not sure what other, I threw others on there, but really I think that this is a per course, per business kind of decision there. And then you need to think about, well, how much effort is it going to take, and how long is it going to take to convert these courses? And so even if you have those source files, and we talked about, even if you have the original Captivate file or the original Storyline file, Lectora or iSpring files in there, then it's still, even if all you want to do is open it, convert it, and republish it, that's still going to take a while, because if you think, 10 minutes to grab the course, 10 minutes to open and convert, 10 minutes to publish, but then you're going to need to QA it too, because you have to make sure that no changes in the tool have actually affected the way your course works and runs. Maybe the way it handles graphics, or the way it compressed the audio or something. So if you got an hour-long course, you're gonna have to figure, an hour to 2 hours to QA that course as well.
Someone points out the foreign language versions too.
Oh, excellent point there too. Yeah, you're gonna have to grab all those foreign languages as well there too. So even that oh great, we have the source files, all we got to do is convert this, even that is going to take some time. If you got 500 courses and it takes you an hour a course, that's some time. Probably going to take you more like 2 hours a course. And then when you're moving to a new tool, or if you don't have the source files for the old course, so in other words, maybe you did it in Adobe Presenter back in the day, and now you want to move it to Adobe Captivate or something, then you're going to have to get all the images and the audio at, should have been etc. I should get somebody to proofread this for me. And then this one has been interesting, and that is recreating or reimagining, I think that says re-imaging, but reimagining complex animations and interactions. And I'll give you an example. My company, GForce Learning, we did a large conversion for a large restaurant chain, and they had, it was all custom Flash stuff, and they had in there a very interesting interaction where the learner had to choose the right, let's say, bread for the sandwich, and then choose the right sandwich and put the right stuff on it, and then had to weigh it as well. And so all that was one interaction to make sure that they made the right choices of ingredients and that they had the correct weight on there as well. And so, in Flash, you can build that pretty complex thing. We were moving to Storyline, and so it took some creative re-engineering of those in there. Some of the other interactions they had, we were able to use some instructional design, separate it out a little bit. But for those, we had to come up with some fairly complex set of triggers to evaluate whether or not they did like all 4 steps correctly, 4 very separate steps correctly on that one slide to get that done there. And so before I jump to my last slide in here, I did want to just pop up here. I have an example. This is so our Flash Finder. It's, like I said, it's a web service. It's a web application that our team uses here. We can see a list on the site itself, and we can also export a list to Excel as well. And so this is an example of just one of our SCORM Cloud realms that we have up there of the export that came from that. And so in this one, we have 1,362 courses in this particular SCORM Cloud realm. Right now I have it filtered to only show courses that have some Flash in them. But we can see across the top here, I'm grabbing, I know how many Flash files are in the course, what the title of the course is, if there is an HTML5 option, what version of SCORM or XAPI it was, what tool it was developed in. This one is if it has any FLV files in there, but I haven't really come across many of those anymore. When's the last time that course was modified? Another one, when was the last time somebody uploaded an update for that course, or maybe it was the original update? How many people are currently registered in there? And I can tell how long it is. Now, some of this data is coming back from the course tool, and so that's why we see all these different formats here, because like Tor, Storyline, they all publish the stuff in different formats there. I can see who authored the tool if they put their information in there. Moving over, I have in there how many slides are in that course and the course ID. And the great thing here is with this kind of information, I can say, well, I really only want to see courses that have Flash in them, that don't have an HTML5 fallback, and let's sort it by the number of people registered in that course. And so that's going to tell me, hey, I should probably take a look at this course, because I've got 9 people in it right now. They don't have a way to get around these 2 flash files in there. I know it's a lector course, so probably most of the course is working just great, but I'm not sure what's happening on those 2 flash files there. So I'm going to want to go take a look at that particular course, find the source file for it, and update that one. So that's kind of how I would use this data to start prioritizing what courses need to be updated in there. And then I'll let Rich talk to you a little bit about what eLearning Brothers process is for taking these old courses and converting them up there. And then I have this last slide somewhere here. Oh, there.
Yeah, the process would be, I mean, typically, well, this has already happened, by the way, so thanks for that, James, because we've had a few clients who are trying to be very forward-thinking, who come to us even as recently as the last couple of months, and I think we had one client approach us about a year ago trying to get ready for this. Some big organizations, and many of you on the line today are with big organizations. You literally have hundreds of, or even thousands of different courses out there that probably a tool like this you could really benefit from a tool like this. Because like James was saying on one of his earlier slides, for you to actually step through and find that on your own is a lot of manpower, a lot of hours, and folks just oftentimes, in our experience, that's why our custom team is in business, is you don't have the time to do it yourself. So typically what we'll do, oh, sorry, go ahead, James.
One thing I really love about eLearning Brothers approach here too is they're not saying, hey, run this thing and then we've got a button and we're going to magically convert. They're saying, let's gather all the data, make some smart choices, figure out not only do we want to convert this, but how can we make this a better course, and move forward from there. Sorry, I interrupted.
Exactly, you're exactly right. And in fact, the one organization that came to us last year said exactly that. Can you help us identify what's out there? And then they've done a lot of identifying on their own. They had literally hundreds that they'd already identified, and said that the budget here is not, it's not just this huge budget. We've got a finite amount of dollars to do this. Our internal team can't handle it, and then we're able to come up with some suggestions, like James was saying. Well, we can do this type of a conversion for you. These can be rebuilt like this. We'll try to brainstorm with you to find out what's the right solution to fit kind of your need. But we're thinking, now that we're sitting here in April of 2019, I don't know if you guys remember the Y2K stuff back in the day, but I think probably all of us on this call were engaged in some sort of panic mode activities to get us all ready for the turn of the centuries, 19 years ago. We're feeling like that wave's coming in the next few months, where there's going to be a lot of just, folks who need help to make sure they're not going to get crippled when all of a sudden their browsers just, your browsers just don't support that anymore. So that's what this tool's all about. It's kind of just helping us help you, I guess, is really what we're targeting.
Right.
So great job, James.
Any questions popping up, Andrew, that we can answer?
Yeah, we have a ton of questions. Enough questions will probably fill up the remainder of our time here. You kind of addressed this earlier, James, but this person says that they publish all of their Storyline courses as Flash with HTML5 fallback. Are we to assume that those courses will still work, or do we need to republish them as HTML5? Or will those work at all? How will those work?
Yeah, for the most part, they should work fine. I will say that there was an issue with, I want to say it was Storyline 2's fallback for that. So their logic that they had to detect whether or not there was Flash in there, when Chrome updated, and I think also Firefox, when they updated, that logic didn't work anymore, and so then it confused it. So those you would just need to reopen and republish. So there's a small set of Storyline courses that that improperly, I think it was Storyline 2, that improperly identify whether or not there's flash. But for the most part, all those should work. I would say there was also a very similar issue with Captivate for a while too, where Captivate, part of the way it was trying to handle the problem was if it couldn't find flash, then it would try to install flash, and if it couldn't install flash, then it would fall back to the HTML5. But the problem was that the browser was blocking the install, and so it would just get hung up in that. But they're all real quick to fix it. It's just if you happen to have published a course during that window, then that course might have an issue with it. Yeah.
Another question here: when republishing source files to HTML5, is there a better software to use? Like Articulate versus Captivate?
Yeah, I try to stay pretty tool agnostic. I think part of it's going to depend on your familiarity with the tools and what the outcome to be. Storyline definitely has advantages. Captivate has some advantages. If you're looking for mobile, Captivate has their responsive thing built in. But if you're not too concerned about mobile, Storyline scales up and down very nicely. It just doesn't rearrange the content. Although the Captivate rearranging the content can create more work for you as well too. So there's pros and cons of each. I don't know if myself as a JavaScript developer, I like Captivate's API for JavaScript, but if you're just republishing a course, you probably don't need to get in there and fiddle with a bunch of code. I always fiddle with the codes.
So now there's lots of questions coming up about Flash Finder. Will it distinguish between the different tools, whether that be Storyline 2 versus Storyline 3, so that we can know if that fallback is likely to work or not work?
Yes, it will.
Okay, excellent. Here's another question. I work for a government agency, and there is no way that they'll let you install Flash Finder on our servers. What are your thoughts on that? Is there a workaround where we headed that direction?
Sure. So it wouldn't be installed on your server. I'm going to explain the technicalities of it, but it's probably still not going to help him or her. We don't install it on your server. It runs on our server, and it connects to your server over the internet through that API. Some folks do have their LMS behind a firewall, and so their IT department can open up a port for us so that we can tunnel in through that, or they can whitelist the IP address of our server.
So it should work on a high security network, assuming IT is going to create that portal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question. Let's see. Can the Flash Finder tool find all of the weird Flash derivatives like Flex and RoboDemo, etc.?
Yeah, so those are published out. So actually, it looks for .swift files and .flv files. So those are published out as .swift and .flv, as I recall. Yeah.
All right.
Oh man, I missed RoboHelp.
Everybody's going to want to know, what is the cost of the Flash Finder?
I'm going to let Rich handle that one.
Good question. It's brand new, so we just hit our website a few weeks ago. The few initial client engagements, typically it's like a custom project, which I always use the analogy of building a home for a client, or if we were in the business of building homes. It kind of depends on what we're talking about here, right? How big is it? How big is the engagement? How difficult is it going to be to really connect into your network? We're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars, I can tell you that. But so far, as we're getting into these engagements, we're kind of putting together price quotes that meet the level of engagement that clients are looking for. And we even answer questions like, how can we best help you in terms of what level of service will we provide? So it's kind of a technical service that James has created that works really, really well. And it's an elegant solution, but it comes with a service offering on our end as well, where we're able to say, tell us how much you'd like to engage our team to help you. And then we do that brainstorming along the way. So it's a custom quote. And again, the best I can do is tell you it's not tens of thousands, but I mean, we just kind of brainstorm it with you and talk it through with you. Really easy to give you a quick quote if you have any interest on that.
Rich, is there a better way for them to reach out about the Flash Finder than what's there on the screen, the 801-796-2767, or send an email?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can go right to Scott. You know, he's our guy over the custom solutions team. You can come right to me. I'm just Richard at eLearningBrothers.com. You know, I don't know if we send people usually to the website, just to the website portal to put a request in, or whatever you'd recommend there, Andrew.
Can they still see my screen?
Yep, they're seeing your screen. What we'll do is immediately after this webinar, we'll send an email to everybody that's on here, and it'll take you, we'll put a link in there that takes you to what James is showing here on the screen. There's a form at the bottom of the page. In fact, when we send you the email, we'll put the form at the top just for you. But you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing so that when we get you back with a quote, we can get you an accurate estimate of what would best fit your needs. Coming back to these questions, there's lots of questions about using Captivate. If I am exporting in Captivate, at what version do I need to be worried about it creating a Swift file or a Flash file?
Yeah, so when you export it in any of the new, I want to say it was starting with 8, they had an HTML5 option, although not very robust. And then 9 and forward, it was a much more robust tool. So when you go to publish, there's an option. Do you want to publish to Flash or HTML5 or both? And so you can select that option there. So if you choose HTML5, it won't publish any Flash. The exception being is if you imported in some custom Flash thing. Captivate also can be a little harder because there used to be a fairly large ecosystem of people building plugins for Flash. I forget what Captivate. I forget what they're called. But they widgets. So people could build these widgets that plugged in, and almost all those are Flash based. And so if you're using those third-party widgets, then those will probably need, that logic will need to be replaced in those as well.
Okay, one more question that we can take today here. Our LMS provider is Saba. If we go ahead and purchase the Flash Finder, do we need to have Saba install it to their server or our organization server?
No. So it's installed on eLearning Brothers web server. So it's installed on our server, and it just makes a connection to the other server. And so it does that over the API. For each LMS, their API is a little different than somebody else's API. So in other words, in the code, it might be like a get all course files, but for another LMS, it might be get files for course. And so we have to customize that connection for each LMS. But it doesn't, you don't need to install Flash Finder anywhere. We have Flash Finder installed on our web servers, and so we just need to put the right information into our robot, and then the robot will make the connection, make a phone call to your LMS and start asking it questions.
Okay, there's one more great question. Actually, a couple more are coming in that I think would be great. Can you show us that last slide again? What is the recommended deadline for getting Flash out, converted, removed? What would you recommend?
Is that the slide you want?
Yep, that'll work great.
So I'm trying to recall the dates in my head, but Adobe is stopping support for Flash in the next month or so. And then the browsers have different dates that they're going to stop support for it shortly after that. So some of them have not given a specific date. They're just saying in 2020, which could mean January, could mean late 2020. So depending on what browser somebody's using, the date varies, but it's 2020 is the drop dead. I think that you really need to plan ahead, because as I said, there's a lot of things that go into it. You know, if this is a course people only take in February, you can probably get away with it this February, but you're going to want to make sure that course is fixed before next February. If it's a course that they have to take at various points during the year, then you might want to jump on that one sooner rather than later.
Excellent. And then the last question is more information about contact, whether that's contacting James or eLearning Brothers. Just to remind you guys, ELBX Live is coming up on June 10th. That's in Salt Lake City, up at the University of Utah. We would love for you guys to come out to that, and we'd love to chat with you about your projects and Flash. Rich, are you going? You're going to be at ELBX Live, right?
Yep, for sure. I'll be there. James, are you in country in June, or where are you going to be?
Yep. Actually, I'm staying in the country just for that. I'm flying out the day.
I know James is doing some international exploring, but actually, James will likely be added to the list of kind of requestable meeting guys. So if you want to sit down and talk to James, and you're going to be at ALBX, he's a guy that we can get on his calendar. You can actually have a sit down to talk through some specific needs. But for sure, I'll be there.
So learn more about that. You can go to eLearningBrothers.com, and we've got Flash Finder there if you want to learn more about that. We've got the ELBX Live information and registration is there as well. There's tons to learn and find at eLearningBrothers.com. We also talked about some of our development. There's a couple questions about tips and tricks for developing around Flash and using HTML5. We had a lot of courses about that with ELBX Online last month, and that entire archive is also at eLearningBrothers.com. I will send an email out within the next hour that will have a link to the Flash Finder. We'll also include contact information for you to be able to reach out and get direct information as you need it with the people that you need to reach out to. That's all that we're going to take for today, so be looking for that email. Thank you so much, James and Rich, for your time. This has been very, very useful, and we hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.